Sophie Cunningham. Oh, man. I got to tell you, this victory, it came with a big price.
Sophie Cunningham was flat out targeted by a dirty player.
I'd say there's a near 0% chance that Sophie Cunningham plays again this year.
Look at today's game where Sophie Cunningham went out in the first half. And that was such a huge blow for the Indiana Fever because Sophie Cunningham has been somebody, she has been the glue of this team since Caitlin has been out.
Sometimes sports deliver moments so brutal that even the toughest athletes crumble. That's exactly what happened when Sophie Cunningham, the emotional backbone of the Indiana Fever, hit
I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what it was at first when I saw her went down. So let's break down the play where Sophie got hurt. So as you can see here, Bria Hartley is going baseline. Kelsey Mitchell is guarding her. And then Sophie comes over to help. And then Bria Hartley falls on her leg. And Sophie immediately grabs like her shin area.
Hit the hardwood, clutching her knee, tears streaming down her face. For a player who built her entire reputation on toughness,
they went at Sophie Cunningham early, and considering this is Bria Hartley, I'm not ruling out that she jumped through her knee. Considering who it is, I'm not. Like, Bria Hartley has been ejected multiple times. She's yanked Angel by the hair. This is the Connecticut Sun. This is a team that have jumped through players' knees before.
Bria Hartley has had dirty plays all season. But you got to know who we're talking about. Bria Hartley is the same girl that pulled Angel Reese out of there by her ponytail just last game, I think 2 days ago.
This wasn't just another injury. It felt like a declaration of war from the basketball gods themselves.
She pulls Becca Allen by her head to the floor, and Ariel Atkins goes over there to protect her teammate. Bria Hartley has been doing dirty things for all season. She's been a dirty player.
For 25 minutes, didn't look like we had any business beating this Connecticut Sun team. For 25 minutes, we looked like the worst team on the court. Defensive rotations, Marina hitting the three, Sanaya Rivers taking it to the rim, Tina Charles, Aaliyah Edwards, out rebounding AB, Natasha Howard, but we came alive when we needed to come alive. We forced overtime. Kelsey Mitchell, back-to-back threes in OT. Lexi Hull, dagger three, putting the nail in the coffin.
Indiana's season was already a survival story filled with injuries, setbacks, and constant battles. But this? Losing Sophie, the one player who had stepped up when everything else was crumbling, looked like the final straw.
I'm proud of you too. I'm so proud of you guys. I know that sometimes it sounds like just a word when we talk about being resilient, but it's not, man. It's how we live. Yep. It's how y'all live, and it's a tribute to you. It's a tribute to your connectedness, your togetherness, your toughness, your mindset. You never give up gritty attitudes. Like, that's what it takes. That's what it takes, and we will never be counted out, because that is worth gold. That is worth gold.
The kind of moment that ends a season and leaves fans wondering, what if? But here's the twist. This devastating moment didn't break the Fever.
Now, she was on the ground. She was crying. She was yelling. It definitely seemed like she was in a ton of pain. The training staff went over to her. They went to commercial break. Like, it was a real injury. This wasn't something, and Sophie's the type of player, a lot of times when she does get injured, she just gets right back up. She tries to walk it off. This was something that kept her down, and it was so hard to see. It is ironic because Bria Hartley has been in multiple scuffles this year with the Connecticut Sun. A lot of people would categorize her as a dirty player.
In fact, what came next might go down as one of the most shocking, inspiring comebacks in WNBA history. It started as just another game against the Connecticut Sun.
She roughhouse. And Kathy Engelberg, this is why I say you wonder why there's so many goddamn injuries all over the league, because you are allowing people to play rugby and football and do UFC moves in the middle of a basketball game. In the beginning of this game, Sophie Cunningham is bringing the ball up the floor. She gets mugged hit upside the head, knocked to the floor while dribbling the ball up the floor 75 feet away from the rim. Do you think the refs called anything?
Both Sophie's sister, I believe, and her mother both tweeted about this play. Now, Lindsay, her sister, said, WNBA, maybe you should focus less on fining players for commenting on your poor officiating and more about hiring officials that are able to call a consistent game and protect your athletes. Pathetic. Praying for you, Sophie. And then Paula, who I think is her mom, that's what the internet is saying, she said Hartley is a disgruntled player, having trouble everywhere she goes. She's plain mean and plays out of control.
One of those matchups everyone expected Indiana to handle. And for the first few minutes, it felt routine until Bria Hartley barreled straight into Sophie's planted leg like a wrecking ball hitting a support beam.
The Connecticut Sun, by the way, if you guys have seen, they've done a lot, they have done a lot of reckless things in this game that haven't led to fouls. I don't think this is, I hope this isn't reckless. I can't rule out it being reckless. I hope it's not reckless. But at the same time, like, the referees, there were so many situations earlier on in the game that, in fairness, that the referees were letting away with. The referees thought, okay, yeah, let's tee up Sophie Cunningham straight away in the game, and that's gonna, that's keeping the game in control. But from minute one, the Connecticut Sun, how many times have the Connecticut Sun against the Fever dove through people's knees? Multiple times this team has.
You guys brag about how physical. You guys wear it like a badge of honor. We're here to watch basketball. If we want to watch wrestling, we'll watch wrestling. If we want to watch fighting, we'll watch fighting. We're here to watch basketball.
The arena fell silent. Sophie immediately grabbed at her shin and collapsed. This is the same Sophie Cunningham who takes hits, gets back up, and keeps fighting without complaint.
Sophie Cunningham was by far, as the games went along, by a landslide, the best addition we had on this roster. From her play, her shot making, her defense, the intensity she brings, the energy, her having Caitlin Clark's back and actually being willing to fight and scrap when nobody else would hold Caitlin Clark down. Sophie Cunningham said, you know what? I got you. Now she's done. The best addition we had all season.
She is playing so incredibly well during the second half of this season. She plays hard every single night. She's super tough. She doesn't make excuses. She is somebody who has really held this team together.
So when she stayed down, you knew instantly something was wrong. Teammates surrounded her. Fans held their breath. Cameras caught her trying to put weight on the leg, hopping awkwardly before sinking back down in pain. This wasn't the kind of fall you shake off. This was the kind of moment where your stomach drops because you know it could change everything. And then came the outrage. Because this wasn't some random accident. It was Bria Hartley, a player who has built a reputation as one of the league's dirtiest competitors. Let's not sugarcoat it. This is the same Bria Hartley who yanked Angel Reese to the floor by her ponytail. The same player who dragged Becca Allen to the ground. The same player who throws elbows, starts scuffles, and somehow avoids the kind of punishment that would sideline anyone else. Fans immediately pointed fingers. Sophie's sister, Lindsay, fired off a tweet blasting the WNBA for failing to protect players. Sophie's mother joined in, calling Hartley plain mean and reckless. Even casual fans watching the broadcast could see this wasn't just physical play, this was reckless, unnecessary, and avoidable. And that's what made it sting more. Sophie wasn't just injured, she was targeted. And the league's officials had allowed this kind of behavior all season long. For Indiana, this wasn't an isolated tragedy. This season has been one long war of attrition. Caitlin Clark, out for 13 straight games with a groin injury. Sydney Colson, torn ACL, Ari McDonald, broken foot. And now Sophie Cunningham, the one player who had stepped up as the glue holding everything together. Since Clark's absence, Sophie had been Indiana's most consistent performer. She was averaging double figures, shooting lights out from three, and more importantly, bringing fire on defense. She had been the one diving on the floor, scrapping with opponents, and standing up for Caitlin whenever things got too physical. She wasn't just another name on the roster. She was the heartbeat. And now that heartbeat was gone. The injury felt like the season's final curse. Fans watching at home, teammates on the bench, everyone knew it. This was the moment Indiana's playoff hopes should have ended. Down 19 points at halftime. Sophie out. Caitlin still sidelined. The Fever looked broken. Commentators were already writing their eulogy. The body language was awful, heads were hanging, shots weren't falling, and defense looked like it had disappeared. But then, something shifted. Maybe it was anger at Hartley. Maybe it was desperation. Or maybe it was the realization that no one else was going to save them. Whatever it was, Indiana suddenly found life. The comeback didn't start with a miracle shot. It started with grit. Defensive rotations tightened. Loose balls started going Indiana's way. And slowly, the 21-point deficit began to shrink. Fans in the arena who had been silent minutes earlier began to roar. And it set the stage for one of the greatest individual performances the WNBA has seen all year. Enter Kelsey Mitchell. Her first half was forgettable. Just 4 points. She looked frustrated, out of rhythm, and maybe even a little rattled by everything happening around her. But when the second half began, Mitchell transformed into something else entirely. Shot after shot, possession after possession, she took over. Threes from deep, mid-range pull-ups, driving to the basket and drawing fouls. By the end of regulation, she had piled up 34 points in the second half alone, finishing with a career-tying 38 points. It wasn't just the numbers. It was when she scored them. 2 back-to-back threes in overtime. Ice-cold free throws with everything on the line. And finally, the kind of takeover that legends are made of. To put it into perspective, Mitchell just joined Diana Taurasi as one of only 2 players in WNBA history with multiple games of 35-plus points, 6 or more assists, and 5 or more threes. That's rare air. And she did it when Indiana had no business winning. But Mitchell wasn't alone. Odyssey Sims, a player signed on a hardship contract, played like she belonged on that court all season. She chipped in 19 points and 7 assists, bringing veteran composure at the perfect time. Aaliyah Boston looked like the future superstar she is. 14 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, and a couple of game-changing blocks. She dominated both ends of the floor. Natasha Howard quietly added 18 points, using her physicality to keep Indiana in striking distance. And then came Lexi Hull. With less than a minute left in overtime, she buried a dagger 3, the kind of shot that rips the air out of the opponent and makes the crowd erupt. Every single player stepped up, and that's what made this comeback so magical. It wasn't just Mitchell's heroics, it was a collective refusal to quit. Credit also goes to head coach Stephanie White. With her roster decimated, she somehow found the right combinations at the right times. She trusted Mitchell even after a quiet first half. She inserted Sims into a bigger role, and it paid off. She kept her team focused after Sophie's devastating injury and found a way to steady the emotions. Her timeouts were perfectly timed, breaking Connecticut's momentum just enough to give Indiana chances to reset. And her belief in her players radiated. You could see it in the huddles. She was calm, steady, and locked in. This wasn't just a player's comeback, it was a coaching masterpiece. By the time the final buzzer sounded, the scoreboard told a story that felt impossible just an hour earlier. Indiana had erased a 21-point deficit, completing the largest comeback in franchise history. From heartbreak to euphoria, from despair to celebration. The bench stormed the floor, fans were screaming, and for one night, the Fever reminded everyone why sports are about heart as much as talent. But even as the celebration raged, questions lingered. What happens next with Sophie Cunningham? An MRI looms and the initial signs aren't good. Losing her long-term could devastate this team's chemistry and leadership. And what about the WNBA itself? How many more reckless plays will be allowed before the league cracks down on repeat offenders? Fans are tired of watching players get hurt in what looks like football tackles disguised as basketball defense. Yet, beyond all of that, this game proved something bigger about Indiana. They are not soft, they are not broken, they are not going away. Even without their stars, even when the odds looked impossible, they fought back. And they did it together. That's the kind of culture you can build a championship on. So yes, the MRI results on Sophie will matter. Yes, the officiating standards need to be addressed. But none of that changes what we witnessed. A team that stared adversity in the face and refused to blink. Because sometimes the most inspiring victories aren't the ones you expect. They're the ones born out of heartbreak, forged in adversity, and written by players who simply refuse to quit. The Indiana Fever may have lost Sophie Cunningham that night, but they found something just as valuable. proof that they can survive anything. And as long as they have that fight, that heart, and that refusal to quit, you can count them out at your own risk.